take over. Insurance companies now demanding you have these chips. That's how it begins, to track what you do and then go, oh, let the robot take over. We'll give you discounts. And then, oh, we're going to triple charge you to drive yourself. And then, you know what? You're disqualified. And you're like, well, it's a safer world. It'd be a safer world for humans if we were never born. We need a world where we run things. We need a world where we do things for ourselves, or we lose control of that world. And I know it's a balance of both, but there is no balance the way the power structure is doing this. And as sure as the sun came up this morning, and as it's going to set this evening, as our planet orbits around it, just as sure as night follows day, just as sure as Bill Clinton's a big fat liar and so's Obama, just as sure as ugly old Hillary's a demon, just as sure as Obamacare is a giant screw job written by foreign insurance companies, they are putting women in combat positions to make them slaves of the state, cannon fodder. It's culturally acceptable in the human continuum for men to be made to go fight by a tribe. You could say draft is slavery, but if your country's totally being attacked, you're being overrun, you shouldn't even have to have a draft. Men are going to want to fight. But in this jellyfish world, that's not the case. Then the elites don't fight. The poor people fight, and that's wrong, because in every culture, if the king's children wouldn't fight in the army or the navy, if the king 1,000 years ago, whether it was Japan or jolly old England or France, wouldn't lead his armies into battle, I mean, there were British kings, a bunch of them that died in the Crusades, charging castle, gates themselves. I tell you, a really accurate rendition of that is the last Robin Hood with Russell Crowe. And of course, in that whole legend, that's actually what it was. That one king got ransomed, his brother took over and was corrupt. There was another one right after that actually got killed in France, storming a castle. And in the movie, he gets shot by a, what is a crossbow bolt right in the throat. He's just like, rah. I mean, that's what those guys were like. In the old days, the guy was the king because he was 6'5" and kill everybody. His great-granddaddy was a warlord, that came in with the Vikings and just conquered. I mean, these people didn't play games. And if the king didn't get in his armor and ride out, people didn't follow him. In the old days in Spain, all the different noblemen would have to supply their sons if somebody said something rude about the other nobleman's father. Oh, well, you're 70 years old. You're not going to fight. Your son's going to fight my son. In fact, El Cid is an incredible movie with... what's his name? I knew him. I interviewed him. Charlton Heston. I can't remember his name. And it's a true story of fighting the Moors, fighting the Muslims who invaded Spain. And his wife-to-be's father, who was the king of a local principality, because there wasn't one king over Spain at the time. It was like Germany, a bunch of sectors, said something bad about his dad, so he killed him. I mean, he said, pull your sword out, and they fought to the death. And then, of course, later she forgave him and still married him because she loved him, but it was her dad that, shot his mouth off, and Honor said they had to fight to the death. That's the complete difference of what we've become today as men. Think about that. Dishonorable, pathetic, weak pushovers, myself included, compared to people a long time ago. Chivalry ended with people like Colonel Travis, Bowie, Sam Houston, Andrew Jackson. And let me tell you, they weren't perfect people. But you actually read, even from the other histories of what those guys did, you read it, you can't believe it. It's beyond a movie like the one I went and saw last night, The Revenant. Beyond it. And now you look what we've been turned into. It's pathetic. And now they want to put women in frontline combat. And, of course, oh, you only got to do 2 pull-ups, 10 push-ups. Oh, you don't have to run 40 miles with a 40-pound pack or hike 25 miles over mountains with a 70-pound pack and your weapon. Do you have any idea how hard it is to carry ammo and a rifle 10 miles? I've done it hog hunting. A little backpack and ammo and a rifle, and you are sick of it on your way back. And I used to be in really good shape. It's no reflection on women. Men can't have babies. Does that mean we're being discriminated against? It's just crazy. But you see, it's not crazy. And the top generals come out and says, why is this happening? Why do you want to mess up the military? He's the longest-serving U.S. general in history. John Kelly, commander of the U.S. Southern Command, and he breaks it down and saying there will be pressure. The pressure's already there. It's already in the news. Again, that's like saying, I'm not an MMA fighter, and you know what? I deserve to fight in the UFC middleweight championship, and because, you know, like say somebody like, you know, Tim Kennedy could, you know, kick my butt easily because of all of his skills and training and strength, and it doesn't matter. His whole family wins Olympic gold medals and has unusual genetics. We should drug him with a bunch of sedatives and tie his arms behind his back to make it fair so I can kick his butt. And people are like, well, that's not fair. Well, I've chosen to be the UFC champion, and you're discriminating against me if you don't let me. Or it'd be like a 5-foot woman saying she wants to play in the NBA, and so, you know, chop the legs off the players so she can play. I mean, this is really what they're doing. But it's to screw up society ahead of the robot takeover, and that's the globalist admission. So that's the rest of the story and the intel for the military. And getting rid of all male roles of strength and honor because they want to extinguish that completely to finish our domestication and final enslavement and assignation to the establishment Borg. Now let's go to this clip, then I hand the thing over to David Knight. Here it is.
Given the mission of the United States Armed Forces to fight the nation's wars, I believe that every decision we make, whether it's a personnel decision, Tom, or an acquisition, a new airplane, a new whatever widget, I think every decision has to be looked through only one filter, and that is, does it make us more lethal on the battlefield? Will it result in less casualties on our side? Will it end up in less casualties on the other side? Because they're human beings too. Some of them very much deserve to be killed, but others don't. And so that's the filter. So if you look at anything we're contemplating doing, does it make us more lethal? If the answer to that is do it, or is yes, then do it. If the answer to that is no, clearly don't do it. And if the answer to that is shouldn't hurt, I would suggest that we shouldn't do it because it might hurt. So that's, in my opinion. The way I think you do this is, since we're ordered to do it, is you simply do it. My greatest fear, and we see this happen a lot over the 45 years I've been in the armed forces, is right now they're saying we're not going to change any standards. There will be great pressure, whether it's
They've already announced
12 months from now, 4 years from now.
They announced it last week.
Because the question would be asked, well, we've let women into these other roles. Why aren't they staying in those other roles? Why aren't they advancing as infantry people?
Quotas.
Persons, I guess. Why aren't they becoming, more senior? And the answer, I think, will be, if we don't change standards, it will be very, very difficult to have any numbers, any real numbers come into the infantry or the Rangers.
All right, let's stop right there.
Their business.
Absolutely. People aren't going to go into it anymore. You know, guys that can do 500 pull-ups and literally break your arm with one hand. I mean, some of these guys, most of them have chromosome doubles and stuff. I mean, I've seen these guys. Okay, they're not natural. And by that, they're not taking drugs. These are Ben Grimm, a bunch of these guys. And, I mean, they're supermen. And then they also are smart and don't fold under pressure, which is a male attribute on average. But it's the extreme of that. Here's the allegory. I'm going to skip this break. We're going to David Knight. If you get somebody like Caitlyn Jenner or whatever his name was back when he was the gold medal winner and he actually beat some black runners, that was even unprecedented in the 70s. And it's not that white runners at their best were horrible. They were, a half a second not as good, or a second in a longer race than the black runner. And then almost all the black runners winning were Kenyan background because that genetics even better from, those arid areas. People got to walk 30 miles a day genetically. If their ancestors couldn't do it, they died. Now, is that saying it's racist that whites aren't winning all the races or Hispanics or whatever? It's just stupid. It's ridiculous And now they're catching all these guys that are really men or hermaphrodites and have testicles winning races. And they're going, well, let them. You know, and of course, it's not a woman. It's a man. And you look, and the runner's a man beating women. That's not fair either. Well, they're transgendered. Oh, now they want to put transgendered in the where the guy has testicles, has testosterone, and is going to beat the women. Well, of course he's going to beat the women. This is just them playing with reality, being able to jack with the human species. That's all they're doing. And it's a joke, folks. It's crazy. It's stupid. But it's not when you realize they have to overwrite all the traditional roles in this country, in this world. So if you want to be a world champion long-distance runner, you know, pretty much 90% of the winners are Kenyans. And then most of the other winners are other Africans. And then maybe some Greek guy or some, you know, something is just super genetics and he's able. But he's the anomaly, folks. Those people that are that good, most people in Africa aren't that fast. It's out of hundreds of millions of people. There's these certain tiny percentage points where there's just little bitty differences. But you get into women in special forces and frontline combat, all the other militaries have tried it, folks. When guts are flying and people are screaming and heads are blown off, women panic. They don't follow orders. They go crazy. They run. They hide. Or they go psycho and go running off trying to kill people, not following orders. Then you get into hygiene issues. You get into women failing in 30 days in the wilderness. It goes on and on and on and on, and everybody knows it, and they call it anti-woman to not want to stick our women in the most ancient, dirty part of human activity, killing. Men have always done the killing. Men are killing machines. Women are there to have babies and be strong and build up the culture and help people with medicine and literature and science. It's the species. Men are builders, men are planners, men are creators as well, but men are defenders, and that means they're killers. And now, forget men and women. While we're all busy fighting with each other, the computer is here, the robot is here, and the elite controlling it is here, and that computer, that robot, will follow the orders to a T. It will not say no when they say kill civilians. It will cover up and say somebody else did it. It will lie with impunity, autonomously, carrying out its evil mission. That's what this is about. And you notice Kelly engaged in a huge rebellion there. That's a big deal to have the commanding general of Southcom say, it's a horrible idea, we shouldn't do it, but I'm being ordered to do it. He's not supposed to even say that. That is unprecedented. And the other general coming out and saying, we created ISIS, it's horrible. This is the last vestiges of human decision-making. That you see why they want computers. You see why they want robots. You see why they want dumbed-down humans following the orders. David Knight, you're hosting the rest of the show. Thank you for doing a great job. You've heard my last 3 hours and 20 minutes of transmission. What's your take on what I just said? Then tell us what's coming up today.
Well, thank you, Alex. Yeah, my take on that is it reminds me of a story by Kurt Vonnegut called Harrison Bergeron. They actually made a short video out of that. And in that, the whole idea was making everybody equal, that they pursued equality of results above all else. So you have visual images of someone who is a very good ballerina, and then they load her down with weights so she can't dance. Or somebody who's a tennis player, and they load him down with weights, or they tie his arm up or whatever. It's absolutely absurd on that level. The other thing that reminds me of,
and they're getting rid of A+ grades. They're getting rid of trophies. Yeah.
The other thing that reminds me of is as I hear all this, I'm reminded of those Virginia Slim commercials when they still used to have cigarette ads on television. So you've come a long way, baby. Here's your cancer stick, okay?
Yeah, exactly. You've come a long way.
Yeah.
60 years after they brainwashed women to smoke, saying, show your men. Yeah, exactly. You've come a long way, sweetheart.
Yeah, and so that's what they're doing right now. Of course, I think another aspect of this, Alex, besides pitting gender against gender and that sort of thing, and getting people to come in and join the military as kind of a sucker play like they do with the cigarettes with Virginia Slim. I think the other aspect of that is that they want to get them involved in a killing mentality, because they're going to be using remote control machines. Just like I've got this article here from talking about how ISIS is showing off a driverless car bomb.
Great point. Get the women into running the remote vehicles to think they're part of the killing and get them into that whole culture as well.
Exactly.
Oh, well, notice every new movie shows the woman as the warrior princess beating the men. They're being totally primed to publicly support the robot kill system.
Yeah, that's what we said. That was our take on Star Wars at the beginning. I said, yeah, I really enjoyed the film. It worked as an action film and everything. But understand that like every other movie you're seeing coming out of Hollywood, they're programming you to see women as warriors, not as nurturers, okay? To go against their nature, to change their nature, just as they wish to change the nature of men. So they show the man in that as being very weak. So that's the whole point. That's the control programming that is part of this.
And then mammals see and look, and humans sit there and watch it and really believe men are these despicable, dumb, moron creatures.
Yes, yes, yes. They show it over and over again. I mean, look at this
Every
situation.
commercial I see, the dad is a raving loon.
Yeah.
Totally stupid.
Yeah. Look at the new Star Wars. I mean, the guy who is her counterpart, her romantic involvement there, it's a black guy. They make him a janitor. He's very empathetic, okay, but he really doesn't, you know, he's not an action figure. He's not a take-charge guy. He's kind of, you know, where they would have put the female lead.
What did the Pentagon say with Jade Helm? They said, we are worried about empowered individuals, not terrorists, but anyone empowered, not following the directives, because they're following orders of the globalists. They want us to follow the orders. They've been given orders to brainwash us and make us follow orders. No, we're giving you orders under the Constitution, Bill of Rights, common sense, self-preservation, that you are deactivated right now, military, and you are going to defend the Republic and break the enemy programming. You're strong enough to do it, for heaven's sakes. But, sorry, go ahead.
Well, actually, Alex, you know, one of the other things that I was going to talk about briefly, I mentioned it last night in the Nightly News, the fact that they're talking about looking at the insider threat. The Pentagon is announcing that it's going to be monitoring completely all military, civilian, and contract personnel. And that means
which they've always been doing with the main NSA thing.
But now they're announcing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, now they're announcing it. They're announcing it as part of a intimidation aspect. We've got another story also about Palantir. Remember I did that report on it back in December 2013. Palantir is a data mining company that was started up by the CIA. Now the take on it today is that it is getting so large that it is pushing out all the other businesses in Palo Alto. And that really is what's happening in technology.
Yeah, this is our new culture, is private corporate groups taking over all the taxpayer money and displacing everything. The business is enslaving us and bringing in jihadis to murder us.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And then again, at the same time, another article I've got here, I'll talk about in depth. We've got the chair of the House Homeland Security Committee, Mike McCall, right here out of Texas. He's written a new book, Alex. And it's called Failures of Imagination. And so what he does is he talks about how terrorists could unleash an attack at Disney World or the Academy Awards or Mall of America just so he can get everybody so afraid. And it really is a form of terrorism itself. I mean, these are, to put that stuff out there.
That's right. Hyping the terror is the terror, and then bringing it in and not pointing out that issue is the terror. Great job, David. I'm going to...
Another GOP debate is upon us.
When you had the World Trade Center go, people were put into planes that were friends, family, and they were sent back. They knew what was going on. They went home and they wanted to watch their boyfriends on television.
Who else would come back like that at the Bushes and the Clintons calling them criminals?
And the Saudis.
You guys go back to your live feeds.
You see, we don't have rights in America. Only the people who are outside of this country have a right. The only right that anybody has is to come live in America, presumably to live off of us if that's what they choose. They can come live off of us. They can come create war in our country. That's their right. But people in America don't have rights.
The first and most important priority of the President of the United States is to protect the safety and security of America.
No, it isn't. You're disqualified. You have an oath to the Constitution, and the oath to the Constitution says, and the Declaration of Independence says, you are created to protect our freedoms.
Right.
Not to keep us safe. They didn't want safety. They wouldn't have rebelled against the strongest government in the world if their first priority was safety. Their first priority was liberty. They created a government to protect that. I'm sick of these people.
If we want to defend the country, we have to defend against who's coming in. And Marco has more of an allegiance to Chuck Schumer and to the liberals than he does to conservative policy.
Do you really think that Republicans have fueled the rise of ISIS?
I think
yeah,
that
where's she been? Who is
arming
she?
the allies of ISIS, the Islamic rebels
been
against
doing?
Assad, that we created a
is
safe
this
space
bimbo?
or made that space bigger for ISIS to grow.
We know what's going on. We know these guys are running ISIS. And when they talk about shutting down freedom of speech, he just repeated the exact same stuff he said in his speech. Even talking about how you don't refer to these people as masterminds, he knows precisely what he's saying. These are a bunch of Morlocks, and the American people are a bunch of Eloi. When they talk about serving America, you're on the menu.
Join InfoWars January 14th, starting at 7 p.m. Central for another episode of Political Science Theater 3K.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, you can get 6 months free at prisonplanet.tv, but only for 1 more week. Next Monday, the special that only comes around once a year ends. In fact, we've never offered 6 months free before, but I really want to get more people to join and to be able to watch the nightly news, to see the live reports we do, the special reports, all my films, ebooks, and so much more. One person can share their membership with 20 people, and you are funding the absolute very leading edge, the vanguard of the resistance to the globalist operation on every front. We have to have our own platform that is harder for them to censor, harder for the system to shut down. PrisonPlanet.tv. We put out the daily radio show free with the video and audio feeds at Infowars.com/show. But it is the members that get the nightly news exclusively and first, and the commercial-free video podcast and audio podcast that are paying it forward and financing and helping so many other people see the truth when we put the videos on Facebook, YouTube, and it's PrisonPlanet.tv that finances so much of the cameras, the equipment, the crew, the reporters. You are becoming a PrisonPlanet.tv member. You get exclusive HD, higher quality, get it first, and then you can download it, share it with friends and family, share your passcode with them, your username. It's a win-win, and then you're helping finance to put it out for free to everybody. PrisonPlanet.tv.